Welcome back to the Already Dated podcast, where in this week we are going to talk about the importance of art style, whether it can make or break a game for you. Let's talk about it.
Alright, so art style.
Yes.
Art
style.
It's a broad and narrow topic at the same time.
Yes,
But,
it could really go anywhere, really. Trying to narrow it down is,
I'll kind of start the same way, sort of, we did with the remaster remake thing.
Mm-hmm.
Difference between graphic and art style.
Yes.
Where graphics are generally the technical elements of the game. The pixels, the quality, so on.
Mm-hmm.
And art style is about the art of the game, no doi. Like color, lighting,
The style of the art.
Yeah, like colors, lighting, characters, the overall look of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It creates the vibe, the mood.
Yeah, exactly. Those can then have crossover into them, like with the ray tracing features. That's a graphical, technical element, but then it can be used to enhance the art style.
Yes. And it's like graphic is important for, your HD look of a game.
Mm-hmm.
But for many, it's not make or break whether it's a HD game compared to like where a game with an interesting art style does more to make a game look good than graphics alone.
The focus of a game having good graphics is more of a, I was going to say normie, is more of a casual point of view, where it's the people complaining about, oh, this game looks like a PS2 game. Yeah, it's like people who just care about the graphics and don't care about what the game is like. So YouTube and Twitch comments, those people.
Yeah, the keyboard warriors come together.
But not like 99% of most gamers TM they don't care.
Because here's a question for you people out there as well. Would you prefer a game that's more satisfying to play, or would you prefer and find a game that's more satisfying to play if it has its own unique art style rather than focusing on being HD kind of thing?
Yeah. If it has, it's not necessarily the most graphically amazing looking game, but it has really good gameplay.
Yeah. So both together are great art style with HD graphics, but which should be the main focus is the kind of thing we're in here.
Yeah. And with how the two can kind of tie into each other, that a graphical feature like ray tracing can tie into the art style. The inverse then applies for you having to follow an art style to help adjust the game. It applies especially for mobile games, where they're really limited on hardware and software power, where you need to pick a simple art style or your game won't run.
Yeah, it's phone games are a big a big thing about art style carries them really, because they don't have the console PC hardware to make a game graphically intensive.
Yeah, and there's a whole stigma around it, which I to some extent take part in myself, that when you see a game that looks kind of cheap and ugly, immediately I think, oh, this looks like a phone game. Because most phone games are that, but that's the same way as going through the Steam shovelware section and saying all games look like asset flips when they don't.
Yeah.
Mobile has good games. It's just,
I mean, I'm even more back in the day. I was even more on the spectrum of not just saying it looks like a phone game. I was like, this looks like something. It looks like a calculator game that you play on a microwave.
This looks like something you'd play in your TI-83.
Yeah. Texas Instruments.
Texas Instruments, that's the one.
That's the school calculators for you.
Yeah, the ones they force you to buy and then you use once.
Yeah.
I got in trouble for that once when I didn't bring my calculator. I got called out by the teacher as the principal of the school walked in.
Oh.
Why do you not
Getting
have your
called out for
calculator?
I don't know. I have my phone.
No, this was. Wait, I don't actually know. I was gonna say this is before I had a smartphone, but I must have had whatever.
I mean, I got in trouble when we were in Shanghai for not bringing my calculator because I didn't have a smartphone to use.
Yeah.
I had a Nokia. I had like a little Nokia brick that slid up for the keyboard because I kept throwing the
sickest thing
phones
ever.
away. Yeah, and my thumb was as big as the entire keyboard. Anyways,
Oh,
moving on.
remember when
from
this was
that.
about art style?
Yeah.
Yeah. The point is the two can influence each other. You have to adjust your art style to fit mobile, but then also your art style can be changed by graphical elements. And like for PC, where you can adjust different graphic settings to some extent, you can argue that then harms the art style of a game to some extent. Like if you turn off all the shadows in a game, is that affecting how you see the game? Is that affecting its art style?
Yeah. But also, like, this is a thing for people who don't particularly care. Your YouTube commenters who don't care about art style, who just care about this is 8K HD 21 whatever P.
Does it have 4K? I was gonna say 120 FPS, but most of those types of commenters don't really care about.
Yeah, and they don't own monitors that can run anything in 4K.
No. That,
Just putting it out
but
there, they have
they'll be
60
sure
FPS
to
monitors.
comment when something has low FPS.
Oh yes, 360p.
Yeah.
What is this?
What is this running at 5 FPS?
Yeah, your monitor is 60 hertz, my friend. Even if it was 60, even if it was 100 FPS, you wouldn't be able to see the 40 of them.
And then
But
there's the
also,
people
like-
who say you can't see more than 60 FPS.
And yeah,
Yeah, you can.
you can, if you really want to.
If you really want to.
I have a 240 hertz monitor that I play on. So
I
can
used
get
to not see the difference between 60 and 120 until I owned a 120 monitor, and to be honest, I still don't. I can tell a difference when I play like Jedi Fallen Order. When I go from 120 FPS to 60, I can tell 60 is slower, but
It's just like because people have to realize like, it's the refresh rate.
yeah,
How many, like, because for example, Overwatch is a good example between 60 and 144 hertz screen. So you're 60 to 120 FPS. It's the load time between the frames of a character moving when you're looking at them. The higher refresh rate you have, the smoother that is going to be, because it's refreshing more frames per second that you are seeing the character move at.
because it's games working in 3D space, in a 3D animation space. They're using interpolation, so where the computer is blending together each frame into a smooth movement. So the more frames your screen is showing, the smoother it'll then make that movement, because it's interpolating more frames.
And this sets me to my people of culture question. Having a particular art style sets a game apart from other games and giving you a unique atmosphere, which is so important.
Yes.
And isn't that what developers really want, is to set their game apart and not just be like, hey, we released another HD whatever game.
We did the same thing as all the 20 other AAA games. Here you go.
Yeah. Instead of making a unique experience for your consumers.
That's the thing though. Everyone aims at that, but with the art style of some games, you can clearly tell they were trying to emulate something else.
Yeah, it's like a game for me where it gives me a unique sense of atmosphere and, vibe, mood kind of thing is Ori and the Blind Forest. That's a game I played uniquely just for the art style and the sound and the great soundtrack. Like, because its art style in and of itself, with the little glowy person running in the monochromatic background, so good.
Yeah, Ori's art style is fantastic.
And it's a HD game when you play it.
Yeah,
So
it's a
it has
1080p game. You can put it up
Yeah.
to 144 hertz, and again, because it's interpolation animation, it'll blend those frames together, so Ori's spinny jumps will look even smoother.
Yeah. So that's a game that did it right.
For me, the reason why I picked this topic was to kind of try and narrow down, because it's gonna make me come off very vain, very shallow, very visually focused, and that's because I am.
Shallow Hal wants a good art style.
Shallow Hal wants a game to not look like ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
My issue isn't ever, oh, this game looks ugly. This game, oh, it looks like a PS1 game. I can't play this game. I don't have that problem. I love going back playing games of any era except for the Atari 2600 days. That's a little too old.
Let's play Space Invaders.
I mean, even Space Invaders, it has its own
It's good.
art style that it's nice to look at. It's
Space
like
Invaders
vector
has an
graphics.
art style that's uniquely Space Invaders.
Whereas the Atari 2600 is the one thing I'll say without debate is just butt-ass ugly, no matter what they tried to do with it.
It's bunk ass.
Whether it's Adventure, the most famous game because it's an RPG, which is just a square going around, or it's E.T., or it's that drag race game that ran into controversy because the guy lied about his speed run. All of them, they're all ugly.
They're all uggos.
I hope this doesn't come off as a hot take or anything, but screw it. The Atari 2600 is ugly. Just the console design is cool,
Yeah.
but it's
I
games.
had a comparison in my brain. That's not very it's not very 2022 take. So I'll keep it in because it doesn't run very well, I don't think, in these times. It's like the Atari is like the.
I'll clap 3 times so I know if I have to edit this part out, I'll know where to cut.
Okay. It
Go ahead.
is like Atari is like the grenade friend that gets brought to the club to make all the other girlfriends look good. Like when girls go out and they always have that ugly friend with them to make them look hotter. That's the Atari. It's the grenade.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, you get that equivalent in like anything.
Yeah.
You bring the smart friend, so they potentially make you look smarter, or you bring the dumb friend, so you look smarter.
The Atari is the dumb friend who makes you look smarter. Nevertheless.
Gotta adjust this bit. I'll clap 3 times just to be sure again. Oh wait, gotta adjust this. My chair is falling down. Can't have that. Okay, I'll clap 3 times just in case.
All right. Moving on from Atari being butt ugly.
Yes, so Atari is ugly, but anything else I'll play of any era. I'm not predisposed if it has to be modern to play it. For me, it comes when it's a specific art style that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to narrow down which ones they are and why. I mean, years ago I made a video where I think I was trying to reference this. I referenced it about Borderlands.
Oh.
Cause
Borderlands Omega black outline cartoon style.
which I think I hated back then. I played Borderlands despite its art style because I liked the gameplay, but I hated how it looked.
I loved the art style. I hated the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have your one example there.
Yeah, because Kuba made me play it, or not made me. He wanted me to play it, and I was like, all right. When he came to see me at one point, we played Borderlands 2. I was like, I love the art style of the game. I think it's very fun. But I really did. I don't know what. I don't even know why I detested the gameplay. It's like Destiny 2. It's a looter shooter.
Yeah, the gameplay isn't exactly the deepest thing out there.
No, it's a looter shooter.
You run around, you shoot guys, so you can earn skills to make it more fun to shoot guys.
But also some of its characters also, again, with art style being kind of like the characters, no role. Claptrap is a character in there that really gives some comedic relief in that game.
Yeah. Claptrap's design
Jack
is great as well.
Yeah, and Handsome Jack is a goofy villain.
I've really gone almost in like a full circle with Borderlands because I hated its art style and then I liked its gameplay. Then I think I became more accepting of its art style, and now I've circled back to no, you know what? No, I'm accepting of it, but I still don't like it. I think it's ugly. And it's kind of the end point I have of a lot of things in my life. I've been trying to come to terms of what type of name to put on it, where you think one thing, then you think a more correct, potentially politically correct thing, and then you kind of circle back to the original point, which you know now with more context, but you still have the exact same mindset anyway. Borderlands art style. I didn't like it. Okay, no, different art styles deserve to exist.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It still deserves to exist, though.
I'm gonna get really philosophical with you here. In why, like, I think one unique aspect of art being so important to games is that art is a shared language outside of understanding or speaking a certain language. Art is applicable to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important in games. You don't have to understand a thing, but if like the art style can speak enough for itself, then it does its job.
Yeah. Like you can have a bunch of conveyance in a game. You can have waypoint markers saying you're supposed to go this way. But if your art style, and also game design, but art style for visual sense, if it's good enough, you don't need to have any text on the screen and someone will know which way to go.
Yeah, because art style is the visual language of the game.
Yeah.
It's just, that is my philosophical take on it.
It's a very good it's very true.
Yes.
That you don't need to be speaking the language in order to say, like, oh, that's a pretty thing.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I should go down to there.
The old saying, a picture says more than 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
But let's break down some art styles for the people.
Yes, because as one of the things that is so great about art styles, and art in general, is that it's varied as all hell.
Yeah.
To kind of somewhat tie into the point we made about the video game remakes.
Yeah.
New kinds of art will always be made, which is something that's always surprised me. Like, there's that old saying that there's like only 7 stories in the world that are being endlessly retold, but in different ways.
Yeah.
And so it's always crazy to me whenever there's like a new art style and it's something where I can definitively say I've never seen something that looks like this.
Yeah.
For it to still be possible after humans have existed for thousands of years, making art for thousands of years.
Yeah.
How can anything new still be made and yet people still do it?
Yeah. There are the major outliers that are used again and again. You have your cutout arts.
This is definitely an outlier. You don't see it very much.
This is back in like Sonic 4. Uses cutout art because of how the environment is made. It all looks like layer on layer on layer.
It was trying to imitate the same thing that the Genesis did because it had that background effect. But then, it was going for more of a paper, plasticky cutout type of look. And
It looks like cardboard pieces that have been cut out and just stuck on top of each other.
It looks like ass is the better way to say it. to use the artistic and scientific phrasing, it looks like butt ass. It is not a good game to look at.
Great montage bit right there. You know what? It looks like cardboard, plaster on top of it. It looks like shit.
It looks like ass.
It looks butt ugly.
It didn't help that Sonic 4 wasn't a very good game either, so it didn't win on any fronts.
And like, you know, tried and true back in the 90s, 2D pixel art, 80s as well.
Yes, people did that when that's all they had. You hadn't advanced to 3D yet, where from the NES to the SNES, where the SNES got from 8-bit to 16-bit, so it opened up a whole world of more detail to put in. Yet, actually, funnily enough, when you go back and play the Nintendo 16-bit games, like Link to the Past, they had so much more detail to work with, yet their models, well, I say models like it's a 3D model, but the pixel art designs are basically still NES designs.
Yeah.
Like, if you compare NES Link to Link to the Past SNES Link, the level of detail is, like, not that much more.
No, like, because there is the different colors put in the different pixels to make the character.
Yes, but with, like, your Final Fantasies or your, on Genesis, like in Sonic 3, they use the amount of pixels they have and the different colors they have access to give like highlights and stuff, to add just an absolutely nuts amount of detail. You compare the model of Sonic from Sonic 1 to Sonic 3, and that's on the same console, so they're the same amount of bits, but more just refining an art style. Sonic 3's model is so much more detailed due to the highlights and shading he has.
Yeah, Sonic 3's model is really cool. It's like, or at least the first three Sonic games takes it like, it refines it.
Yeah, it truly refines it. Whereas, for like Link and Legend of Zelda, in Link to the Past, he's like just a little bit better than NES. Like, I know this because I've tried to mod Link to the Past. I've tried to tweak his character model and I've realized, there's like no pixels to work with. He's like barely detailed at all. His eyes are like a pixel. If you want to make his eyes a different color, you've clipped into his hair now. It's too late.
He has 2 blue pixels for eyes.
And then the trees are just one color and then an outline.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, again, Genesis or your Final Fantasy games, they use all different shades of green to make different leaf highlights and stuff. Link to the Past, just the one. Screw it. Yeah. It's like the NES.
Like, 2D pixel art came back shortly with Undertale, being like, that's a popular game that's made in 2D pixel art.
Pixel art in the indie space has been a thing for years, but Undertale and Shovel Knight were two really big name examples.
That made it kind of a popular look again for a time. It's always popular in the indie space, and again, I hope this isn't a hot take after the Atari one. It's because it's easier. It's not ass. It's because it's ass. No, this is an assless take.
It's because it's easier to do.
It's easy, yes. It's a lot easier than rendering full 3D modeling, and
I want to put it fully on the record. It isn't that there's a massive difference between something is easy to do and something is easier to do than something else.
Yeah.
Pixel art is not easy.
No.
I have never done pixel art from scratch. Like, I've edited the sprite sheets in Stardew Valley.
We made minor pixel art in school once for our multiplayer game.
For the Scratch game, for that too.
Hey, we made 2D pixel dudes.
doing it from scratch is really damn hard, especially to get a detailed design. But tweaking something that already exists, that's a lot easier to do on pixel art than it is to go in and tweak a 3D model.
Yeah, like you have to tweak a 3D model, re-render. It's...
You have to adjust the textures on the model that you've adjusted. You have to adjust the rig to adjust how its animations play out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Point is, it's easier, not easy.
Yes, I want to make that 1000% clear, just so no one misinterprets it to me saying pixel art is easy.
Still massive respect to people or developers who make 2D pixel art games. It's not easy, it's easier than 3D modeling. Let's put it like that.
And if you were a developer who worked on the Atari 2600's art style, you worked with what you had at the time.
and to your dismay, it looked like ass.
I mean, they probably thought it looked fine, but they had not even 8 pixels to work with. They had like 2. All right, guys, you can have 3 colors on screen at once. Make an adventure game. All you have is boxes. Do it.
Roy G. Biv, guys. Roy G. Biv.
It's a wonder they made frickin' anything, let alone E.T. But yeah. Onto from the pixel art type, you move into the vector art type that you pointed out.
I have mentioned it. I know very little about it.
Yes, I mentioned this before we started recording that, and we have made this the theme of our podcast. We are not professionals of any kind.
Yes.
We will get stuff wrong, especially me, because I don't really know like anything. The little I know about vector art from what I learned in university is that it's supposed to be more primitive preset shapes, which have been put in place specifically so that when you can take the output and scale it up to any resolution you want, whether you're making it bigger or making it smaller, it won't lose any of its quality. If you take like a JPEG or a PNG image, the PNG is the better example of vector. If you take a JPEG image and you make it massive, it gets all blurry. If you take a PNG with vector art and make it big, it'll look exactly the same, but just bigger.
And see, I know very little as well. I do about most of this research like a day before we record.
Don't spoil the info.
Oh yes, don't spoil the background stuff of me doing research a day before and writing notes.
It's very highly advanced secret research. It can't be put out there. Absolutely.
But one of my favorite art styles, again, because it is a sub-style of Ori and the Blind Forest, is monochromatic art, which uses like 1 or 2 colors. Ori has a example of monochromatic because a part of the background is monochromatic black.
Yes.
But behind that, you have all the other, like, shooting stars and all this other stuff happening in the background, and the glowy and the character. But the monochromatic is there in the black line in the base of the background.
Yeah. One of the best examples of monochromatic art is definitely Limbo,
which basically just uses black and gray.
Yeah. It went the true art house approach of we can't really decide what we want to pick for an art style. Let's make it black and white.
Yeah, because all of the characters in Limbo are black. All the objects are black. The background is gray.
It's all silhouette, and then they just went full on into the art house film angle.
Yeah. They basically just took, like, whatever you see in Limbo is basically like someone is standing behind, like, it's somebody standing, and then behind them is a guy with a flashlight blowing them up on the screen.
Yes, exactly. It's all shadows. It's all silhouette.
It's all, yeah.
Then they put like a bunch of film grain and a bunch of film stock and fog and stuff, and it's one of the most like atmospheric and unique designs with doing the most simplest thing you can do out there.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of the times in film, when they try and make something look more artsy, they go in black and white. But then sometimes that's all they do. It's like, you gotta do more than that. And that's what Limbo did. It took advantage of, okay, we only have like 2 colors to work with, then let's make it work with that.
Yeah.
And they convey everything.
Shades of gray, but the black is just a full-on matte monochromatic black all the way through for the silhouettes.
One of my favorite things in Limbo is there's a secret like challenge room / route you can go through, where in order to get an achievement you have to beat the whole game without dying, and the best way to beat the game without dying is to go through that challenge room. But it's a challenge room for a reason. It's really freaking hard. And my favorite thing, like, no other game I can think of has done this. There's a bit of the challenge room where it's completely black.
Yeah.
Because Limbo, the character, is black and the background is gray, but there is no background, so you can't see. All you have is sound, and you have to try and work out where saw blades are coming from the sound. Yeah. It's crazy. But because they've adjusted to that in their art style, they can do that. So you're pretty damn used to seeing black everywhere.
Yeah. That just reminds me of, like, when you're not able to see something, like, it reminds me of one level in the new Crash Bandicoot game. Because there you have the inverted levels.
Yes.
Where it's the level with a different art style. Or you're doing the level backwards or whatever, but in one of them, it's black as night. You can see the boxes. You can't really see much else.
Can you see Crash?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But when you smash the boxes, the paint flies out and like paints.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah, and paints part of the level.
Those
really cool.
Those look really sick from what I've seen.
Yeah. But I like that kind of thing where you're like, as you're going through, you're doing something to like illuminate part of where you're going.
Yeah, I've always really loved that idea of when you take a like black and white world and add color onto it. This is gonna be such a weird reference. In the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse 3D animated show, there was an episode where it was all black and white and they have to go around adding color back to the world. And for some reason, it always stuck in my brain of like, that's a really cool idea. Why is Mickey doing this?
Well, I've seen that episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
You saw it too?
Yeah.
That's when you know you found a real one. If they've seen the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse episode.
Yes.
For one of the other art styles, we move into probably, I don't know, one of the most popular ones out there.
It's in the last decade or so, it's one of the most used ones. Is cell shaded.
Yes.
Art. Used a lot in Pokemon in the recent since X and Y. When they started doing that, that's cell shaded all over the place.
Yep, and that in Pokemon's sense, especially, it ties into again more of that mobile game type of philosophy. They were working on the 3DS. They didn't have that much power to work with.
Yeah, so they again had to dial it back. We
gotta adjust our characters and our world design and our Pokemon.
Yeah.
Let's make it fit this cel-shaded art style so it fits more into the power that the 3DS has, because we can't render Ultra HD 1080p stuff on a 3DS.
We can't have live action Ash Ketchum running around in there.
Cursed live action Ash Ketchum.
Curses the guy who's been 10 for 30 years.
I see I didn't notice until just now, you put Mega Man Legends here. That's a pretty damn deep cut. Yeah, Mega Man Legends, definitely the cel-shaded art style type. It almost somewhat fits into the more chibi or anime-esque art style.
Chibi art style, which
The-
which I have pointed out I hate so much. Reference back to episode 9 if you want
Yes.
to know more about my thoughts on chibi art style.
I'm more of a fan of chibi art. I can like it, but yeah, in the case of like Pokemon, you can tell they're doing it just because like it's easy.
Yeah.
Whereas yeah, in Mega Man Legends, especially for what they did with the facial animations, that is I'll put it out there, so here's the video proof. I'm stealing that for animation stuff I'm going to work on in the future. I'm going to steal that, what they did. Instead of animating the face, because they were working on the PS1 and N64, you look at Metal Gear Solid 1, Snake doesn't have a face. He has a mess of pixels trying to look like a face.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it yet. Mega Man Legends decided, okay, we can't really model a face yet. We can't really animate it. Let's just make their face a texture, and then it'll swap out with different textures we've drawn to mimic their face being animated. And it looks so good. You go back to it and look at it now, and it still looks amazing because they're still using the same techniques nowadays. Even in like Switch games, they still use that sometimes. Like the characters in Smash Bros. So many of the characters, the Pokemon, they all have that exact same thing with their face. Their face isn't animated, it's textures that just change. Kirby is another one.
Like,
yeah,
you changes the picture.
You go through, okay, you make an open closed, half closed, and fully closed. Oh, it makes the character blink.
Yep, and you just go.
Instead of
if you do it really fast, it just goes.
Yep. Whereas you have the more realistic characters in Smash Bros. Where they've been fully 3D modeled with their face animated in realistic ways.
Yep.
So it's cool that something that Mega Man Legends made really famous is still being used, and that's because it ties in really well with like cartoony characters and art styles, which I'm going to steal at some point. And then you put Ultimate Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I need to go look this up, actually. Wait. Oh, it's gonna show the comic, isn't it? Wait, Ultimate Spider-Man game.
Yeah.
Whoa!
That is, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to... in post, I'm gonna have to put a picture of this on screen. I've never seen this before. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is... Yeah, wow, okay. It's a full-on cel-shaded... Like, they're trying to mimic a comic book.
Yeah, it's fully like comic book animation.
How have I never heard of this?
I've played it.
I guess I'm not really a gamer. I thought I knew everything.
Yeah, that's a really good or a really good example of cel shaded game through
Definitely.
and through.
And I assume that it's a PS2 game.
It's 2005, so yeah, something.
Yeah,
something around that.
It's definitely a mix again of the working to the limitations of the time.
Yeah, it's every like all consoles are all going to be working with the limitations that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, how many limitations are left to break is the question.
That's a good point there. Of course, all of them are working with their limitations, but a lot of games, they'll choose an art style. Another cel-shaded art style is Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Massive controversy when it first came out, because this looks like a baby game. This is a cel-shaded art style. This isn't realistic.
It's game for babies.
It's a baby game, and people love it now, because that whole era has passed. But that was definitely a case of they designed the art style to work more with, okay, we have all this power in the GameCube, but we can't really make a realistic looking game yet.
Yeah.
Let's work with what we can do. Let's try and make a more kiddie art style and let's make it really good. And it seems Ultimate Spider-Man did the same thing. That we don't have that much power to work with, and we're trying to emulate Spider-Man, who's a comic character. Let's make it look like the comic.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, who can be mad about it looking like a comic book?
Well,
someone will.
I ragged on Borderlands, so odds are if you showed this game to me 15 years ago, I would have said, I don't like
Borderlands falls under the comic book look-alike thing.
Yes.
And I'm going to mention a couple of styles in passing because they're not super used. It's like flat art, which is just, it looks like a background photo that's been set up. Not used. It's used in passing in some games. Not so much anymore because of 3D.
Yeah, pretty much. And
doodle art, which is just not used that much.
Yeah, doodle art, trying to look like a kid doodled it. You put Doodle Jump, which, I mean, of course it ties into
phone
the name.
Game.
Yeah.
Phone games. Do a lot of doodle.
One of the more highbrow examples would be like Yoshi's Island on the SNES, where it's a pixel art game, but it's trying to look like it's like a kid's drawing.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Super Mario World, whereas Super Mario World is like a pixel game through and through, whereas Yoshi's Island very specifically has that drawn look going for it.
Yeah, Super Mario World was a 2D pixel game.
Which Yoshi's Island is that still technically, but in terms of art style,
it's moved over to the like a kid drew it while sitting at the kitchen table with crayons.
Yes, exactly, and that's what people love about it. That it sounds like a slight, but no, that's the thing that people really love about Yoshi's Island. They leaned a little too hard into some of the later games, though.
Oh yeah.
Where, yes, we then move on to
today, 3D,
to the third dimension, where art style changes big time.
Yu-Gi. When you say dimension like that, it just reminds me of a thing from Yu-Gi-Oh, the anime. Like, return from a different dimension.
Yeah, throwing people into the mirror dimension and everything.
Yeah.
The most common art style out there in 3D art is a realistic one. And I'm not really sure why.
3D realism is, I don't know, it's used in AAA games. All Sony's recent outputs. Insert Sony plug here.
Sony, you want to sponsor our episode? This is where it comes.
Yeah.
Want to put the PS5 ad? It's coming down right there. All of Sony's recent output, your God of Wars, your Spider-Mans, your Horizon Zero Dawns, all trying to look as real as possible. And most of the game industry, and I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to make everything look 3D realistic.
No, I guess it's because when you try and convey something that is like real life, that is what we then interpret. Oh, okay, this console is powerful.
Yeah. Because
it can display this much realism.
It can display this much facial expression.
Yeah.
Because when they use realism, it's to usually animate the characters like a real human being. That's where it really comes in with the facial expression, texture, all this stuff.
For facial expression stuff, yeah. Except a lot of times in modern games, especially, they focus more on like environments.
Yeah, it's like, does the grass look like it's whistling in the wind?
Do the trees sway correctly?
Yeah.
How many million polygons and tries does this rock have? Oh my god, it looks so real.
Yeah, how many divots does this rock have that's just laying there?
The only time I ever and not that it needs it, but one aspect where realism really plays into it is in VR.
Oh yeah.
Where because VR is trying to emulate like
Your surroundings.
your surroundings and you living in it, when you're then in an art style that isn't real, it's
Yeah. It throws you off.
yeah, it's you can adjust to it, of course, but it's a real disconnect of like you don't think this is real around you.
Yeah. And the point of VR is to make you feel like you're immersed in
Yes.
this world.
Exactly. You want to be sucked in, you want to forget you're even playing a game.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're playing like Minecraft in VR, you're not thinking, well, I'm living in Minecraft now.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing a game. I have a big heater strapped to my face right now.
I have a big radiator strapped to my forehead now.
A big toaster. Yeah,
But like that's the most. It is the most used now, and
yeah.
it's what's gonna happen going forward.
It's been set up as the trend. It shows we have the most power, so that's what it's gonna be. And they're gonna keep getting more and more realistic. And people always say, "Will there ever be a cap? Will there ever be a point where games can stop looking better?" And at least so far, we're nowhere near it.
Yeah, I think we will eventually reach a point. Until games look legitimately just like real life.
Because the standard always changes. You go back 20 years, and people were saying the PS2 is the best graphics can ever look.
Yeah, and then now we're here.
Yeah, and you go back to the PS2 now, and DMC1 Dante's face is like all smudgy, and it's like, we thought this looked real?
Yeah, it's... Oh my god, Tekken? Whoa.
Oh,
PlayStation 2 Tekken. Let's go.
oh my god, Tekken 4? Tekken? Yeah, this is the most real anything can ever look.
Did you see the this is just tangent, by the way, Netflix series of Tekken Bloodlines that came out
No?
very recently? It's like a 6-episode thing revolving around the Tekken 3 story.
Is it live action?
No, it's animated. It's a 6-episode anime. It's based on, Ogre from Tekken 3.
Yes.
It's based on the Tekken 3 story about Jin and getting trained by Heihachi and taking on Ogre.
Wait. Was that the plot of Tekken 3?
Well, it's a very thin plot in a PS1 game, but they've...
I thought the whole point, though, was that Jin was taking down Heihachi. Not that he was training with him.
You'll see in the anime, it makes sense.
Okay, it's animated, yeah, I gotta go watch it.
And they make so many, like, hints to the game as well with their special moves and all this. Like, they're, like, move for move. They're, like, their in-game special moves.
Dude, when did this come out?
It came out, like, a month ago. Maybe.
Dude, oh my god, I gotta go watch it. I thought you were talking about live action at first, so I was like, I don't really care. But
nope, it's animated, 6 episodes on Netflix.
Or I'm gonna go watch it then.
I can recommend for anyone else watching.
Tune into the next episode where I talk about was Tekken good or not. No, probably not.
Either way, moving on to art style.
Yeah, on the polar opposite end of realism is the one that we see the most. One that we don't really see anymore is low poly.
Yeah.
And that's because we kind of we've advanced past it. Low poly, same as my comment with the Atari 2600, was that you worked with what you got at the time. Snake's face was just a smudgy mess in MGS1 because that's all they could do at the time.
Yeah. You work with what you got.
Yeah, and the PS1 and N64, that was the norm. They obviously didn't intend to go in like, let's make this look simple. It was, let's make this look as good as we can. And because it was early 3D, they didn't have much to work with. Whereas, yeah, for games nowadays, unless it's trying to do a specific recreation of an art style. People don't really use low poly anymore because realism is the most normalized one out there. So when you then go directly against that, people will say, oh, this looks bad, this doesn't look realistic.
Yeah, that's people want realism now. That's pretty much it as is. And then there are some older styles that don't get used, or an old style hand painted that got used limitedly.
Yeah.
Like strategy games use a lot of hand paint style. Warcraft, bringing back to episode 9 again. Do we go listen to that about Warcraft?
Warcraft 3, yep.
Warcraft 3 and Dota used a lot of hand paint style.
Yeah, you also have the same in Civilization.
Yeah.
And in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, it's like a lot of top-down stuff uses hand paint style back then.
Yeah. Probably to tie in again to that whole point about working with limitations.
Yeah.
If it's a strategy game, you're going to have like thousands of troops or buildings on screen at the time, and
so you want to limit the amount of intensity that's putting in the game. And
where
it's used as a sub-style in cartoon, which is just a broad spectrum thing, casual style.
Yeah, cartoon can really, cartoon or drawn, it can really fit into almost anything else, really. Like, it can fit into the doodle one, like I mentioned before. You can have low poly, again, like Mega Man Legends from before, that can be cartoon.
Yeah.
The main ones,
a lot of cell shaded falls under cartoon.
Yes, they're all trying to limit. They're all trying to imitate like a kind of drawn or an anime kind of style.
Yeah.
And so they all kind of fall under that same label.
Umbrella.
No, label on the umbrella.
Wow. And like, I don't know, there's also some more sub genre styles of plasticine is a very specific one of things that want to look real.
Yes.
Or look like real world things.
Yeah, very different from it's trying to look realistic.
It's just trying to look like real world stuff.
It's trying to look like stuff you can get in the real world.
Yeah. Like one of our favorite, unanimously favorite games, Little Big Planet, is a plasticine art style.
Yes, very much so. Little Big Planet, it's trying to imitate basically what if you're a stuffed toy in the real world.
Yeah, like if you're a stuffed toy walking through a room kind of feeling.
And
think of it like Toy Story.
yeah, exactly like Toy Story. And it tries to model everything exactly to how it looks in the real world.
Yeah.
But not to a degree where it's like they're trying to imitate a realistic game like
it's
current Sony
fantasy. It's a fantasy, like if you saw it from a toy's perspective kind of thing in the real world.
The sponge material will look like a realistic sponge. Metal will look like real world metal.
Wood will look like real world wood.
But it's not trying to have ray tracing reflections on the wood or anything.
Yeah, no. It's just looking like a block of wood.
For then the other games that kind of tie into that same art style, you have the kind of Nintendo spin-off subgenre of like Yoshi's Woolly World and Kirby's Epic Yarn and all those games, which people don't really like because they see those as kiddie. But a more recent example that people like a lot more is the Link's Awakening remake, which tried to look like a stop motion diorama, and it was a lot more contentious because it's a very specific art style, so either you like it or you don't. I really loved it. Because especially it ties into the history of Zelda. In the very first game, they built a plastic stop motion diorama of the whole map. So it's got history in the Zelda series, and for Link's Awakening itself, there was like a puppet show ad they made. So even with Link's Awakening, it has history. But yeah, very polarizing art style. And for the final one,
the one that was made beside 2D pixel art in Nintendo era, voxel.
Yes.
Which is just it's 3D pixels. It's 3D cubes.
Yeah. It's 3D before they could really officially do 3D.
Yeah, this is all three-dimensional cubes that are just put together. So it's like, instead of looking at a pixel from one side, you're looking at the pixel from all of the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still squares put together.
Yeah. It still somewhat plays into more layers of things. Like one of the examples I thought of, not on the list here, but so early PS1 was one of the things I put.
Yeah.
The PS1, it could do 3D, but even then they wanted to limit that as much as possible. They wanted to save on performance. So they still used voxels wherever they could.
And actually, Crash 1 is voxel art. Because Crash is so diagonal. And so it's like, you can see, it's just like
the levels he runs through are 3D, but then
his character model is voxel art.
He is like Lara Croft and Tomb Raider.
Lara Croft and Tomb Raider. Bring back triangle boobs.
Have you seen how pointy she is? Yeah, she's a voxel babe.
She is the OG voxel babe.
And like for a more personal example, you've Legend of Mana on the PS3, PS1. That is it's a 2D pixel art game, but it's effectively like voxels because it has layers and it's more in a 3D space where you can run around in, and it has 3D animations in it. It's kind of a nutty game. It's like if you took an SNES game but put it in a PS1's render engine. It's really cool.
And funnily enough, one of the biggest games in the world is voxel, just with texture, and that is Minecraft, people.
Yes.
Mojang's Minecraft. It is just a massive. It's the voxel game.
Yeah, it's just with boxes.
It's
boxes
you're
on top
building
of
with.
boxes.
It is 3D pixels, just bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one big voxel game with textures.
The final one then with voxels, which kind of more introduced it, was the original Star Fox on the SNES, which you can really see the difference of when you go from Star Fox on the SNES when it's voxels trying to imitate 3D to N64, okay, we can actually render 3D, and just how much better Star Fox 64 looks.
Yeah.
Like, to tie into this whole theme of like art style turning you off a game or something, the original Star Fox, I do not like how it looks.
No, I'm
like
a big fan.
At all.
Work with what you got. Work with what you got.
I had to work with what they had though. And some people that it's so tied into nostalgia that to them Star Fox is that. The SNES version of Star Fox, that is what it is to them. Any modern version they've made,
Yeah. Well, let's ask some questions here. What's your favorite game for art style?
This, by the way, these questions are also directed to anyone watching that you can put down in the comments.
Feel free to answer them along with us.
Yes, for art style, easily off the top of my head, it's Mirror's Edge.
Oh yeah.
That's
a good choice.
It has aged like a fine wine because it stuck so hard to its art style. It was trying to look realistic for the PS3 era, but they also had a very distinct art style they were following. They tried to look realistic, but it was all white and then
And,
like one solid color.
Like one white and then just red.
Yeah, white and
For
then
the
red,
for the tracking.
white and then green for like one building, white and then yellow for another.
Yeah, but also they stuck to that specific style when they released Catalyst like later. So
Catalyst,
they didn't waver.
Catalyst added more onto it, where it added some more traditional sci-fi elements, but even then, it still stuck to it.
It stuck to its base white color code.
Yeah, the Catalyst did a thing that's really cool, where they have different areas of the city where one is really high poly, high tech sci-fi stuff, and then another side is like Mirror's Edge 1.
Yeah.
Realistic grotty city. It's all white and then one blue or one red. And I'll posit the same question back to you.
I have mentioned my favorite one, and that is Ori and the Blind Forest. If I had to pick a game purely out of art style and design, it would be that game. Because I'm taking the gameplay out of it. Simplistic gameplay doesn't bother me, but I like more complicated stuff gameplay wise. But for just looking at it, I could look at that game forever. I had to pick one.
I'll then ask you the second one. What's your preferred art style? What's the kind that you like to play more or look at more?
For easy on the eyes, like I'm a normie of the 3D realism. But like outside of that, monochromatic or plasticine. Because I love plasticine art style with the Little Big Planet. It's great. It's easy on the eyes to look at.
Yeah.
And I love monochromatic because I love it for its artistic value, less so for anything else. I love it for the art that goes into monochromatic style.
Yeah,
you have to do a lot with a little.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was about to say. For myself, I don't think I have one. That it's a real cop-out answer, but I don't.
I mean, mine was I mentioned 3. I copped out halfway.
No, it's better to have more than to have none, because.
But I mean, again, like if you have a lot of different games that you enjoy and they all have different art styles, like
I know art styles more that I don't like.
Yeah.
Than ones that are like, oh, this is my preferred one to look at.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fine enough that you don't have a specific preferred one.
If I'll somewhat give a different answer, is an art style I like that you don't see often is in, how would I describe it? Wireframe?
Yeah.
Like in the game Rez or certain bits of Metal Gear Solid 2. Yeah. This art style where it really plays into like wireframes where your character isn't a highly detailed model, it's just like their outline.
Oh yeah.
Or where buildings are just blocks. Like you get that in Mirror's Edge as well, in the like the background of the main menu or the map in Catalyst.
Yeah, so wireframe.
Yeah,
it's outline art basically.
Yeah, it's like low poly.
Yeah.
Also, wireframe. Yeah.
All right, and here's really the big sum up of
the main kicker. Yes,
is what's more important, graphics or art style? Would you sooner stop playing a game for bad art or bad graphics? Is a better way to phrase this.
Yes, which it is a very tricky question because you can have a game that is graphically amazing, but then just has the most generic, boring art style. And to me, that it has to if it has other aspects I like, I'll put up with that.
Yeah.
If it has like really good gameplay or a really good story or something. But
Yeah.
the main example I have of that type of instance is the game Remnant, Remnant from the Ashes,
Yeah.
the third-person shooter game. That game is one of the blandest looking games I've ever played. Its art style is just generic. That's the term I'd use to describe it. Because it has like, oh, it has infected enemies. What do you make them look like? Oh, they have like, they're all red and they have pus growing on them, right? How long did it take you to think of that? Oh, they have like alien characters. How do you make them look? Oh, they're like all thin and long-limbed and they're green. It's all that. And it's like, oh, it's set in a post-apocalypse. How are we going to show that? Oh, it's in a city and it looks like New York and all the buildings are broken.
And it's gray.
Yeah, and it's gray. Oh,
That's the classic.
But to make it look different, so it's not just gray, we'll put the red infected stuff in there. Never seen that before anywhere. And then it also has fantasy game aspects in it, and that's also the most generic. Like, what do you think of when you think of bare bones fantasy? Oh, it's like a castle made of white stones that are kind of old because it's gone through a lot of wars.
Oh my god.
Just do something different. And no, it was just the whole game is that.
Oh my
What
god.
does a swamp look like? Looks like a swamp. Oh, it's green, it's brown, there's water.
It's murky green water.
Yeah.
With tall grass.
There was nothing in that game, art style wise, that I could think, whoa, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Even
That
its
all just
gun
sounds like the
upgrades are just like, oh, it's a real world looking gun, but you have a red glowing thing on it now.
But it's like, it just sounds like the most generic mishmash of post-apocalyptic fantasy elements.
Remnant from the Ashes is like the first game I've ever played where it felt like it was made by an AI.
They just plugged in terms.
They
and then
fed
just,
in
like,
real world, post-apocalypse, zombies, aliens, fantasy, third-person shooter.
Remnant of the Ashes.
Remnant from the Ashes, you did it. The thing is, we liked the gameplay and we played it. That's why we stuck through it. But its art style was bleh.
Blah.
It was a nothing.
Yeah, like I have different. I have examples. I have an example in the way where art style saved or got me to stick out the game over like the gameplay and the otherwise, which was Borderlands 2, where the art style kept me in the game rather than me just saying like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. And I know you're on the other.
Yes, that was the complete opposite.
You're on the opposite end.
Yeah.
But Borderlands 2 is one of the few times where art style 100% kept me in over gameplay and graphics. Like I don't mind the graphics. I've never been one to be like, oh my god, I need a game that's like 1080p, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I like immersion story. Like if a story gets me, I can get past art style. It's the same with reading a book. If you're into it in the first 5 minutes, then you're gonna keep reading it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any game where I had the same thing, where art style saved a game. Because I know I just spent like 5 minutes straight ragging on Remnant, but if I were to try and take like the game looks generic but it has amazing gameplay, or the game has amazing art style but I don't like its gameplay or story at all, I think I'd take the first one.
You have to take the first one because again, you're playing the game. You're not just looking at it. It's not like watching a visual novel.
Yeah,
You're still playing it. If it's not fun to press the buttons, is what I always say.
Yeah.
If it's not fun to press the buttons, then what are you really doing?
Like another example I have of a game whose art style I used to not like was the Telltale Walking Dead.
I was not a big fan of the art style. But
No,
I enjoyed the going through it, I guess.
to me, yeah, the art style, the cel shaded comic book look thing, I didn't like that. But then
Yeah.
I loved the story so much that I pushed through it, and then
Yeah, because
now I do like it.
That's where you. Yeah, I like cel shaded stuff. Like in general, it's not my favorite art style, but I like I can get into cel shaded stuff. So it wasn't like I thought, okay, I'm really into this art style, but I didn't also think like, oh, this shit. I just thought like I'm indifferent to the art style.
It's
But the story grabbed me pretty early in those because I started playing the Walking Dead stuff on my phone. By the way, when they had it on the phone, the Telltale
They did? I never knew it came to the phone.
episode 1 only.
Oh.
And then I went on my PS4 and got it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I've played all of it on the PS4, and I think it was really cool.
Did you play like all of it?
I've played all of it, yeah.
Oh wow, okay. I only played up to season 2.
Yeah, no, I've played all of it. Very sad moment.
Mm.
In the later season
Well,
with Clementine and my man.
what was I gonna say? What would you then put for that example of like great game or great art style? It sounds like you're pretty much on the same point as me.
If art style alone is the only saving grace for a game, and I can't get behind the gameplay at all. I can't get behind the story. I'd rather take a game where I can't get behind the art style, but I can get through the game. But I love the gameplay and story.
Mm.
So, is art style important? Yes. Is it the make or break? No. When you talk about it over graphics, yes, I prefer art style. But if you're talking about it over gameplay and story, no, it's not more important. Gameplay and story trump art style. Art style trumps graphics for me.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, art style is a happy medium between the two things.
Mm-hmm.
Graphics is lowest on the totem pole. Gameplay / story top.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. That you're playing the game for the story and or the gameplay. You're not playing it because it's just a visual novel to you that you are just tapping through page by page.
Well, which also, to be fair, for people who do like to, I mean, not just play visual novels, but even if they play it just for the visual sense,
oh yeah,
that's still fine too.
If you play it for that, that's for us. It's that order. If for you, it's art style is at the top echelon. That's cool. Let us know what game you play for that art style.
Yeah,
because I want to know.
I'm still trying to think of what because this is also going to be a weird example. That one time where graphics has really turned me off from playing a game is when it's a port.
Oh yeah, when it's like ported over.
Yeah, when you have like a game on the PC that you can play, but then I got the visual example right here. But when you got it on the PSP, and it's the same game, but it looks like ass. Which version am I going to play? Am I going to play the PC version or the PSP version that runs at half the frame rate and looks like ass to the PC version?
Yeah, I mean, you just take the better version.
That's like the one time where I get somewhat more focusing on graphics than gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, if you have a better option for the same thing, then you're obviously going to go with the better option.
When, you have a better option, or when it's the PSP is also a good example of games where it's like mobile gaming hadn't really taken off yet. So a lot of mobile looking games are on the PSP, and I don't want to waste my time with those.
Yeah, I tried God of War on the PSP.
Apparently the God of Wars are really good on it.
It's fine.
Oh.
Would I rather play God of War on the PlayStation? Yes. Was I a big fan of the halfway top down looking God of War game? No.
I still don't remember the point I was trying to remember. It was going to be a really good point. It was going to make the whole podcast. No, the one thing I did remember was when we were talking about realism, and that's the key art style.
Yeah, that's today's key. Yeah.
The biggest outlier to it is the biggest game currently. Know which one I'm talking about?
Biggest game currently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not. It's for Doggy Doo ain't the biggest game anymore.
Fortnite?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, it's still a big game. Yes.
Everyone still knows it.
Yes.
And what art style does it have?
That's cartoon as hell.
Yeah. It's not a realistic AAA Sony PS5 looking game.
It's like in some places hand painted looking. Other places it is a mix. It's a mishmash of different stuff.
It's cartoon, hand painted, cell shade thing.
Yeah. And
that is again one of those games where it's twofold. But they did it because it's going to go on mobile, so they got to work with the limitations. Okay, let's make an art style that can work on mobile but still look good.
But like 3D realism really is mostly in like the AAA title story based games.
Yes.
Because like you have like a lot of big games that aren't 3D realism.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the new games, like the MOBA style team shooters, or just team shooters like Valorant, all that stuff. The whatchamacallit, Apex Legends style stuff. It's all cartoon. It's all going over to like cartoon drawn looking thing with.
Yeah. And it's mainly because of performance.
Yeah.
If you're playing a game like that, you want the best performance. Okay, yeah. What's an art style that fits that?
If you're playing an FPS game, you care much less about art style than performance.
Mm-hmm.
I do care about art style in some case. I think Overwatch looks better than most other team shooters. But I care that the game runs smoothly. I don't if it didn't run smoothly, I wouldn't play it because that's just bad. So their cartoon style saves you.
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah.
We drug this one out longer than we expected.
I know, right? We thought this one was going to be like 20 minutes.
Yeah. And then we spent a lot of time even on the 2D styles.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, yeah. I hope you answer any of the three guiding questions that we offered. What's your favorite game for its art style, and then what's your preferred art style, and then which is more important. I know we kind of merged two different questions into that one.
Yeah, we went over with gameplay and story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please give us your answers to those questions in the comments if you have any answers. Which is an art style that you think is potentially overrated, or you hope to see come back again if you haven't seen it?
Yeah. What do you think is underutilized?
That's
what one can say, or what is underutilized and what's overutilized art styles. We all know what's going to say overutilized 3D realism.
Though to be fair, the Fortnite art style is really becoming annoying to see as well.
Yeah. Let's bring back some good old low poly voxel plasticine games.
Let's bring back the Atari 2600 art style. It's waiting for a comeback.
Let's bring back the butt ass.
Let's add some ray tracing to Atari 2600 games. It'll look great.
Yep.
Well, yes, and
Get
so
ready to play Pong. Play Pong in 4K, guys.
well, there is Tetris in 4K, so
That's true. Never say never. Well, thank you for listening, people.
yes. Thank you for listening and watching, and hope you'll tune in to the next one.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.